Time now for this morning's International Press Review with Nick Rushworth. Nick, you've been reading the Venezuelan press. It's a story we've been covering a lot, of course, on the health of the president, Hugo Chavez.
Well, good morning to you this Thursday, Cyril. What we've got here is a lot of uncertainty and question marks about what is actually really going on. The Venezuelan authorities are saying, yes, Hugo Chavez faces a difficult recovery from cancer surgery. So I turned to El Nacional, one of the papers in Caracas, covering this, of course, and has a piece there. You can see that Venezuelans and Cubans, too, are praying for their leader. The Venezuelan president is still in Havana. No one knows when he's coming back. There are expressions of unconditional support for the leader there. One quote is that Chavez is part of the Cuban Revolution, so a great leader for them.
But not every paper is eulogizing.
Not in the least. What we've got is a pro-opposition paper, El Universal. The rhetoric, of course, on both sides in Venezuela, in such a divided country, is high. And here we've got a piece which is saying that the circumstances around these health issues don't add up in terms of Chavez's own movements since he was elected in October. And it's an opinion piece there in El Universal. And the quote that I was able to get there was that, in fact, now their argument is that Chavez is in Havana now, yes, for health issues, of course, but also to make it very clear to Papa Fidel, Daddy Fidel Castro, that the Cuban dictator's decision that Venezuela's new leader should be the vice president, Nicolas Maduro, is actually on record and put into stone. So, of course, as I said, the rhetoric on both sides is very high.
So they're saying Cuba is pulling the strings 100% in Venezuelan politics.
Absolutely. So what we've got there is that, as I said, the rhetoric on both sides fairly high-powered.
And one paper is looking at Maduro, the vice president, whom Chavez has said should be in charge if he were to become incapacitated. So that paper is looking at Maduro, who's emerged as the heir apparent.
Well, this is The Guardian in the UK. Perhaps for a bit of distance on this, I turn to them, and it says, yes, what we perhaps will see now, Maduro effectively is in charge of the country, and what we've got here is someone who is capable of continuing the rhetoric of the style that we've used to with Chavez, of course, for many years. At one point in a conference in 2007, he lambasted Condoleezza Rice. But that portrait of Maduro there in that piece is actually a little bit more complex. It says that he's actually Janus-like. On the one hand, he can be anti-imperialist more than any of them, the most radical. But on the other hand,
he's got another side to
him? Yeah,
him?
Conciliatory, soft-spoken. He's the person who spearheaded the turnaround in relations with Colombia for the last 2 years. So he's got a softer side.
Oh, the un-Chavez side of Chavism. And you've got moving on to a totally different story. Tibet is the subject of one of the editorial pieces in the New York Times.
When I was looking on the New York Times website, it was the top opinion piece, and it's very moving. It's by a human rights advocate in China called Xu Ziyong, and it's entitled "Tibet is Burning." And that report is basically following up on this. Perhaps we're not covering it very much, but there have been 30 self-immolations in a period of a month from November into December. And the person there has gone, actually, he's Chinese, Han Chinese, gone into the country and said he wanted to find the parents of one of the people who killed themselves protesting against Beijing. He had huge obstacles getting around the country, but eventually did so in the north and gave the parents 500 yuan, about $80. And he said, listen, we too are victims. We too are suffering. And the Han Chinese. So that's very moving. Look at this, though, in the China Daily, the total opposite contrast. We've got the China Daily saying the Dalai Lama is working against peace and Buddhism. He is the person who is inciting them to self-immolate. So, of course, that's not the opinion of many people around the world.
Well, maybe that's to be expected if you're looking at that in the China Daily. Now, sticking with world spiritual leaders, there's been lots of coverage of the Pope getting on Twitter and sending out his first tweet.
Well, his first tweet was, "I bless you all," sort of very inspired. But I saw this lovely cartoon in the USA
Well, it's in
Today.
character.
The USA Today has this great cartoon. There you see an old couple, a bit of old fogies, one bloke saying there, "I'm having a real problem now putting these characters into Twitter. I can't seem to get the right ones in, and it's 140 characters too much for me." And his wife chimes in and says, "Well, maybe you're still trying to do your confession to the Pope, aren't you?" So
you can't confess in 140 characters. All right, Nicholas Rushworth, thank you very much.